So here we are taking a look at the Holy Priest. It's a great healer, it's still very solid, but currently in the 7.0.3 pre-Legion patch, still in Warlords of Draenor, there's not a lot of fights where it really takes off. Unfortunately, because it really needs that fight, again, niche spec of having a ton of ticking damage. That's where you'll really end up seeing the Holy Priest take off, and you'll see that more commonly in Legion content. Now currently going to end up moving on, and we're going to look into the talents, and we'll talk a bit more about the gameplay here in a minute. Level 15, you have Trail of Light. More than likely there's going to be a good use out of this, mainly in your 5-mans, and then in most shorter raid fights you'll end up seeing this also. Longer raid fights you'll want to end up seeing Enlightenment because of the additional mana regen, and then during renewal really shouldn't be considered. Now Trail of Light, what it does, just so people know, is if you flash heal somebody and then you flash heal somebody else, 40% of that flash heal you did the second time around will be mimicked to the last person you flash heal. Very nice indeed, and it's a solid amount of healing. On the level 30 side, you have Angelic Feather, Body and Mind, and Desperate Prayer. Now Desperate Prayer is good if you know that you're going to be taking a burst amount of damage and you can heal yourself. Body and Mind really shouldn't be considered because it's kind of weak. But Angelic Feather, on the other hand, you can actually pre-place this. It's going to be a lot of additional run speed, and you can use it as a solid raid utility. Level 45, there's Shining Force, Censure, and Afterlife. Unless you really need the CC, Shining Force and Censure really don't make a whole lot of sense. But in a raid situation, Afterlife is going to take over, as you're going to get additional time if you do happen to end up dying in your Spirit of Redemption form. That's going to allow you to just possibly help push for that kill if you die a little early. Level 60, you have Light of the Naru, Guardian Angel, and Symbol of Hope. Not a single one in this tier is bad. What you're looking at in this tier is Light of the Naru is going to be more personal benefit, as it's going to give you some reduction on Serendipity. Your AoE heals are going to end up reducing your AoE Holy Word, and your single target heals are going to reduce your single target Holy Word a lot faster, giving you a little bit more of a throughput, and it ties well into Divinity, and we'll go over that in a minute. Guardian Angel is also very solid if the tank's going to need additional external cooldowns. You already have your Guardian Spirit, so the Guardian Spirit itself, if it doesn't end up getting consumed and bringing the person back to life, actually gets reduced quite a lot. And then Symbol of Hope is going to be very solid also, as it's going to let you and all your other healers heal for free for the next 10 seconds. It's basically Innervate on steroids. Level 75, you have Surge of Light, Binding Heal, and Piety. Piety currently doesn't end up fitting the mold too much, as all it does is make Prayer Mending reduce your AoE Holy Word. Not a lot going on there. It's really doesn't play well in that at all. And again, like I was talking about, there's just not enough fights where you've got plenty of ticking damage to really make that work. Binding Heal, on the other hand, works very well, except it is very costly, and if you do plan on going Binding Heal, make sure you go Enlightenment to help save on the mana or refund some additional mana. And then Surge of Light's usually going to be the best, as any one of your heals has a % chance to end up giving you a free flash of light. And this can still stack up to 2 times, so you can end up having a decent amount of incoming burst heals. The next we got is level 90. You've got Divinity, Divine Star, and Halo. Again, another set that's completely going to be dependent on the fight. Halo is going to be great for AoE healing spread out. Divine Star is going to be awesome for stacked up AoE healing. And then you've got Divinity, which is going to give you 15% additional healing for the next, I believe it's 8 seconds after you end up casting a Holy Word spell, which is going to be just solid throughput all the way through and through, especially if you went Light of the Naru and you're boosting yourself and you're getting your Holy Words a little bit faster. Then level 100, Apotheosis, Benediction, and Circle of Healing. Now you see I've got Circle of Healing lit up there, and that's just my playstyle. Basically the way Circle of Healing works, and it does end up causing your mastery to go off, it's kind of like a, I'm not going to say weaker, but almost same as Druid Wild Growth. The way it ends up working, it'll end up doing more of a burst heal at the beginning, and then it'll have the little hot afterwards. Very nice to end up having Circle of Healing, and I just enjoy it for the small content that I do on my priest. But normally what you'll end up seeing is Apotheosis, and the reason for that is it's just an overall solid cooldown on your Holy Word spells, and it just plays out very, very well in most of your shorter fights. Then you have Benediction, and again, we don't really have the content out for Benediction to really take off. Basically, it gives your Prayer Mending a chance to leave a Renew behind after it ticks, but we don't have a lot of fights where they're doing a whole hell of a lot of ticking damage, so Benediction kind of just falls off the map currently in this tier. But you will more than likely end up seeing that thing being used quite a bit, as Legion rating is going to be a bit different on its healing structure too. So with this, let's go ahead and end up moving on, and let's take a quick look at some of the stats. So here's your general stat priority. You're looking at Intellect, Mastery, Crit, Haste, and Versatility. And obviously, Intel is going to be the top because that's going to increase your heals no matter what. Mastery is going to be an additional heal on top of your healing over time, which actually plays out very nicely. Crit is going to directly affect both your regular spells and your mastery gain, straight throughput all the way through and through. If you crit with a spell and it's 200 times better, then you're also going to have, let's say, 30% mastery. That 30% mastery is going to reflect much better on a critical strike heal than anything else. So now we're going to sit here and talk a little bit about the generalized healing of the Holy Priest and what makes it good. Now currently Renew is very, very weak, but it is a hot, so it does play out very nicely if you do have someone taking constant damage. What you want to end up looking at though is trying to use heal as much as possible, as it is efficient and it also is a very solid amount of healing. If not, replace it with flash heal. The main reason why I say this is that both of those heals are going to end up working off your mastery, and it's just going to be more heal output than what the Renew is going to be until you get your artifact weapon. Once you get your artifact weapon and you power Renew a bit, it gets better. Then you've got Prayer Mending, which Prayer Mending is very situational, but it's almost decent enough to just end up making sure that you're firing it out on somebody on cooldown just to keep it up, as it does do some decent amount of healing. The only problem with Prayer Mending is currently where it really shines is going to be in a fight with a lot of ticking damage, so it can end up bouncing more and more and more and do additional healing. And each time it ends up healing somebody after its bounce, it also leaves behind your mastery, which is very nice to see. But the only problem about this, there's not a lot of fights currently in the 7.0.3 pre-Legion expansion. Here in WoD, HFC doesn't really have anything that reflects Prayer Mending correctly. So it's up to you whether you want to use it or not. It's really a tough choice. And then we have Prayer of Healing. This is a very solid heal. It's very expensive also for AoE. It does not heal as much as if you were to do a single target healing, and should only be used in very situational points. But the nice part about Prayer Healing is it actually took off the group restriction that had been holding it before. It's not the 5 players in the group, it's just 5 players within 20 yards of the target that you're casting it on. Very nice improvement on this ability, so it will actually shine a bit better. And even though the heal is a bit lower than what you should end up seeing out of an AoE heal, it does end up benefiting from mastery, and it will end up causing that additional tick. The other thing we're going to go into is your new Holy Words. Notice there's no more chakras. Obviously that's out of the way. You don't have to worry about going through and chakra dancing and worrying about it. But now you've got Holy Word Serenity, you have Holy Word Sanctify, and then you also have your damaging one, which is Holy Word Chastise, which allows the stun. We're talking healing here though, not really worried about that side of it, but you can, if you want to, as a Holy Priest, you can still put out some pretty solid damage. It's not as high as some of the other healers right now, but still really fun to see. So Holy Word Serenity, 1 minute cooldown, and it's an amazing heal. You'll end up seeing this thing more than likely if you use it on a non-tank. If it crits, you're going to see that person go all the way to the top. If you use it on a tank, and it also ends up critting, you've got to remember your mastery is going to follow right behind it, and it's going to be a huge amount of hots that you end up getting out of this after you cast it. And then you have Holy Word Sanctify, which is a great AoE heal. It is targeted with a reticle, so you want to make sure that you end up placing this just where you end up wanting, and it'll heal up to 6 allies for a very solid amount also. Only problem is Holy Word Serenity costs a very high amount of mana, and so does Sanctify. Use with caution because they can get a little expensive. But more than likely, if you're needing these heals, it's going to be cheaper for you to use them over any one of the other alternatives, as their healing output is much higher than, let's say, Sanctify compared to Prayer of Healing. Sanctify is going to be almost 4 times as much. Very solid amount of healing out of it at about, I'd say, 1.5, maybe 50% additional mana. Not even that. From what I'm looking at right now, it shows 800 additional mana, but the healing is very, very high compared to it. Now we're going to look at cooldowns. Guardian Spirit. Guardian Spirit's a very solid cooldown, and for those that don't know, what it's going to do is it's going to increase the healing they receive by 40% and preventing the target from dying if it does get that low by sacrificing itself. And when it does that, it'll actually pop them up to 40% of their maximum health and allow them to continue going. Great tank cooldown. Awesome, awesome, awesome. But they did add an additional deal. If it's on a tank mechanic that requires swaps that will kill the tank like twice over, it will no longer end up saving it. So if it dies from just general ticking damage, no big deal. It's going to save their life. If it's a huge hit, it's not going to work. And then the other one's going to be Divine Hymn. It is still channeled, and it is a weak AoE heal still. Unfortunately, for a big cooldown, it's still not that great. What you're looking at out of this is the benefit that you're going to provide as you end up channeling this. And what it's going to be is, after somebody gets healed by Divine Hymn, they're going to have a buff on them that increases healing done by 10% for 8 seconds. Really solid amount of healing, but very weak in a raid situation. If you're not in a raid situation, you really shouldn't end up using it too often, but it is increased by 100%, so it does make it have a little bit more benefit. Still, out of most of the other heals, you've got Trank, which is pretty damn overpowered. You've got Divine Hymn, which is kind of weak. You've got HTT Totem. Currently, it's not that great, but when mixed with Spirit Link, it's very, very solid. Divine Hymn's just kind of the weak bird out of it all because of that additional healing that you end up applying to help benefit the rest of the group. So generally, what I'll end up saying in most situations is look at the dynamic of the fight, see what spells are going to end up working best. The only person that can really tell you what to end up using is going to be yourself, unless it's going to come from major cooldowns, and you'll most likely have those called out by tanks or a raid lead asking for your hymn or what, Spirit of Harmony. Whatever you end up taking, this is going to end up being your choice. So you really got to end up thinking dynamically how your group is going to play out. But all in all, this is going to be it for our Holy Priest quick guide. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself, and thanks for watching.